Okay, welcome everybody. I have a live agenda here. Starts with speaking about best and brightest update and implementation, which is a hot topic of the day in a number of ways. And I've got some information to share on the additional supplement MOU for the Title I critical shortage position. And then we're slated to talk a little more about Article 10. I was able to meet with the academic cabinet and share out on some of that discussion. And then, as always, any additional language topics. I'll just kind of give you guys, I'm sure you guys are getting plenty of feedback on Best and Brightest as we are. Every corner of this building has been flooded with terms, concerns, questions, clarifications, all types of inquiries on Best and Brightest. We're fielding a variety of those, as well as just some general complaints from folks that are excluded by statute from qualification for the awards. A couple things I just want to let you guys know that steps we've taken from the district office to help people and answer their questions the best possible. We've updated the website and pushed that out to all employees, not just those eligible, so they could make themselves aware of the different nuances of this law and how it's being implemented, and also the finer points that we're bargaining in the bargainable areas. And it's a very thorough website, and BJ and my department do a good job putting that together, and hopefully we're getting answers to people as quick as we can. They're coming the questions are coming through all channels to many different departments. So I feel like we're doing a decent job a good job really of fielding those questions that are coming in. We also created a custom form on people's employee view on their Skyward account, and that lists their status, which tells them eligible or not eligible, their category, whether it be recruiting, retention, or recognition, the award amount, the gross amount, and then the issue date when we have to have their checks to them. Everything's moving forward productively towards that December 20 date. Within all the information that we sent out, there's folks that still need to provide verification. We're starting to actually see some of those come in already, so that's good. So the verifications are the people that came from other districts who needed to retrieve those records and provide them for us to qualify in whatever categories were applicable. There are some system fees based on certain criteria set within Skyward and who's eligible, and that's how it processes. But with any system, there's parts that are not perfect, that it won't pick everybody up. And we had a good example today. We had about 15 individuals that were either on some extended illness leave or maternity leave, because when they go into an unpaid leave status, they're not in an active assignment at that point. So it pulled them out of that report because we went by active assignment as of the FTE reporting period in October. So we had some people that overlapped and kind of got a little quirky in there. So we've already forwarded those names across and identified who those folks are over payroll. So they'll be included in that first group receiving payment. There's on top of that, so we've had some that are coming through. We've had some that their assignments due to a keying error, perhaps, knocked them out, so we're fixing those one-off type issues and any small group type issues and working through with those individuals. So if anybody is wondering, they feel like they've qualified and why, and they want to know why, they can reach out to us. Probably the quickest way is through salary at leg.k12.fl.us, and we're fielding those, and when we get something that we feel like could be consistent with other people, we're tracking those out to make sure that if it's not just a one-off, and it isn't, we fix the group of people also. As far as concerns and complaints, we've got in a lot of people not understanding why their school did not qualify. They were not part of the 19s. We've answered a bunch of those types of questions. Pre-K folks that were not qualified for it, they are also, we fielded questions about them.
Let me interrupt you that.
Okay.
Just looking from the notes from our discussion, and the area is the one bargainable area, so we can vary whatever, but we exclusively said all instructional. And in fact, I even emailed you about this, and make sure this includes CRTs, non-classroom people, media center, and now we're finding that our instructional pre-K and our instructional TAs in ESE are not included.
And those are all people that you listed those are all people that operate within the K-12. And that's everything that guides.
But our discussion was all instructional.
Our discussion has been also, though, that all instructional that are included within the guidelines of the statute and the law.
No.
That's been discussion.
You added that in.
I have my notes from
You added
July
that
10th.
in after our discussion.
And it says, to be eligible for recognition award, instructional, and I add your note of includes TA, personnel must be rated as highly effective or effective the preceding year and be selected by his or her principal based on performance criteria and policies adopted by the district. The award for instructional personnel meeting this criteria is X amount. And my note that I wrote in here that from your discussion was we can negotiate flexibility.
And I thought we negotiated all instructional.
Well,
that was my
you
misunderstanding.
Everything we've done is tape recorded on
Right.
tape.
Yes.
What I'm telling you is throughout this whole discussion, we have to follow the restrictions of the law and what we can do.
But that's the one area that is bargainable, that we don't necessarily have to follow those restrictions. We can bargain however we want to do it.
Per DOE and law, we cannot include pre-K in Best and Brightest.
That was not the directions you gave us.
The directions I've given since the beginning is that we will follow the law. So, I've been open and I've helped guide discussions throughout this. I've provided copies of the law numerous times. We've discussed all the issues within it. It's not permissible for them to be included in Best and Brightest.
Can you
Did not make that rule.
Can you give me the dates of when you provided that, please?
The dates.
Yeah, you said you
Were
provided that.
you at the Best and Brightest?
Times.
Were you at the Best and Brightest joint
Yes.
discussion?
No.
All right, well,
No,
that's
that
one
was
date
right
and time,
before.
so you can retrieve that. That's one date and time that we
You
had
gave
full
those out.
discussion.
Okay, were there other times?
We've
You
discussed,
said there
I
were
don't know,
numerous
you tell me,
times.
we've discussed Best and Brightest for months. I mean, we haven't gotten in depth until we could get to a certain point.
Okay, you have other people
So-
here. I'm asking them. Can you show me I don't have anything. Can you show anything that he's given that says, that puts this in writing?
Would somebody please provide her with the packet from the joint, do you have that, the packet that we used at the joint bargaining session?
I do not have it. I will confirm that it had the statute,
Yeah, I did.
but I will also confirm that I walked out, and I understand, you can say that your position was within the law, but I walked out. For me, it's less about the actual statute than the sheet. You did an excellent job outlining all the specifics, which we thought we went through with a fine-tooth comb. And we had a discussion, because I think I initiated the discussion about, yes, and I think I initiated the discussion about the opportunity here to say to a demoralized teaching group, everybody's included. And we can put a little asterisk, except by the law, but that's not what I walked away with, based on that document and our discussions. I'm sorry.
No, and that's fine, I understand. If that was what was perceived, I understand that.
Well, I know that I had brought up, and I had actually started listing different positions. And I was sort of, I was made to feel a little uncomfortable that I was snipped at, that all instructional meant all instructional, as I was trying to go through those positions, and we didn't clarify. And I was attempting to clarify program specialist that, and that's when it was said, and you had said to me, Kirsten, he said all instructional. And that's how,
And that was the last meeting.
that was at the joint session.
And Chad had the
Which
opportunity.
means everybody, so I
Correct.
guess that means then from now on, we need to make sure we list guidance counselors, coaches, specialists, anybody we need, is that correct? Because all instructional, when you look at something,
Yes.
all instructional is to us, it's all instructional. We don't differentiate between somebody that's a program specialist or a coach or a teacher. They are all instructional teachers.
And to Kristen's point, I remember being in that the conversation and accepting Chad's position and still agreeing with it that this CAFACTAS program is not the place to negotiate the fact that we as a bargaining unit should change and, I guess a better word is standardize the language as best as it can. Because I do definitely remember one of my core principles is we're all educators. The state's going to tell us what we can and can't do. I have not ordered the LexisNexis to review that, because I figure we'll do that next one. But that's what we were trying to get under for this major opportunity. I guess, and this isn't a criticism, Chad, because I can come back and tell you that you put together the packet and then I did not read the statute. The statutes, there were two, weren't there? And I will accept that accountability because, without making excuses, because I walked away all, now maybe someone could have underlined it, but you know, again, we're pointing fingers.
And
I guess I'm just gonna ask a question. Okay, so what I'm asking is this. So the best and brightest is by Florida statute, right? So, but are we saying, even though they gave us the statute, that we have a right to change it?
No, what, Charlene, can you read your statement again? See, Mama, it's convoluted in the sense that different parts of the statute are negotiable.
Right.
Read Charlene, if I may ask, please.
Recognition. To be eligible for a recognition award, instructional in bold, personnel, and Chad's note said including TAs, must be rated as highly effective or effective the preceding year and be selected by his or her principal based on performance criteria and policies adopted by the district or charter school board. The award for instructional personnel meeting this criteria is X's and dollar signs. And the note that I have written is negotiate flexibility.
That's the only area that we have negotiated flexibility
So
within the best
by
environment.
including highly effective and effective, that's flexibility by including those people with the same amount. So one's not getting lesser. So you can define flexibility in that bottom rung best you can. Guys, I can tell you, I've shouldered responsibility of talking about all of this and providing explanation throughout the course of this. And,
Chad, I just want to, I look back in my notes. On July 17th, you handed out the paper, maybe it wasn't the actual date, but you gave the date it was published with this Florida statute, and specifically talking about retention, but overall, the Florida statute was in there, and it just says classroom teacher on that part. I know that's for the retention,
Right,
but the whole
the
statute.
retention,
The
right.
whole statute was there, July
For
17th.
retention, classroom teacher, we don't like that, but that's
Right,
part of
right.
the retention.
Yeah.
The statute
The
was there, so that
recognition
when
is
you asked what date that was
negotiable.
given. Yeah, this 17th.
I have it on the 24th. Okay, but that doesn't say anything about the recognition.
No, you just asked where the statute was given, so I was answering that question.
and to answer Kathy's question, or does it need to be fine-tooth comb and define everybody? I can tell you, there's already plans to exclude those people in plans with proposed legislation coming down the pipe again. And it's going to be a topic, it's one of the top questions that is going to be asked when they come with this, classroom teacher's minimum salary. I can tell you, their plans right now are not to include pre-K again,
But
and that's pre-K ESE also.
we also know the legislative intent was to use the BSA for teacher raises, but we're ignoring that part too.
In your
But-
opinion.
I'm talking about from the legislators. If you want to call Kelly Starr, you'll ask her. So, but the point here is, we explicitly said all instructional. We said TAs, instructional TAs, including pre-K, ESE. So now in fact, before I even signed that, I said, I want to go back and check the law to make sure we've included everybody. And I was assured this includes everybody, so I went ahead and signed it. Now I'm finding,
All right, and how that was interpreted and what you understood, no matter what agreement we came to, those people could not be included. We'd still be holding off not signing it because you're unhappy of them not being included, but it's instructional personnel defined in statute the first way they define it, not me, the state of Florida. Instructional personnel means any K through 12 staff member whose function includes the provision of district instructional services to students. And then it goes on to say K-12 again. Listen, and when you go to the white sheet on Best and Brightest that from DOE, they explicitly say that pre-K cannot be included in Best and Brightest.
Dated July 29th, 2019, frequently asked questions from the Florida Department of Education, page 2, third bolded print says, are pre-kindergarten teachers eligible for Best and Brightest Teacher Award? No, all recipients must be K-12 members. This is because the awards are limited to instructional personnel or classroom teachers as defined in the Florida statute. And the definitions are limited to K-12 personnel.
And I think at that joint session, we all agreed there were a lot of issues with this Best and Brightest.
Okay.
And I accept I was at that meeting. I did attempt to define
Yeah.
different positions,
Yeah.
and
No, I want to hear.
You also did it in the meeting prior to the last one.
well, in the joint session, I attempted to go through certain positions, and
Yeah, and I asked, I said, no, I remember being on it's clear, this is not the forum for it, and
the other
so I take responsibility.
I'll
But-
Guys, you can't take the responsibility is what I'm saying. Trust me, I've tried to cover every ounce of this statute and describe every possible thing and provide as much documentation as I can,
What
because I
Vin
know
is
it's
saying, though,
not.
is the responsibility of our misunderstanding of it.
Okay.
I think that's where Vin and
I
probably...
apologize, yes, but I
That's-
still have more misunderstanding, Charlene, you didn't read what I thought you were going to read, which you said it was a note that said negotiating flexibility.
That is
And
correct.
again, at the risk of showing my ignorance, so Chad, I hear what you just read, I heard what Rob just read. That's from the website now,
That's
right?
from DOE.
Yeah, okay, I never saw that. That not making sure.
I did not, that is not a document that I provided you guys.
Fair enough, fair enough. So what I'm trying to understand is, let me break it down in simple language for me. There were areas within that we could negotiate, the recognition versus the whatever. Just simple language, say that's on page 2. On page 1, are you telling me that's where this stuff was? Hey guys, whatever you talk about, whatever we say on page 2, about what you can and can't negotiate, you can never discuss this. You can never include the pre-Ks. Because again, I just...
The sheet that she's referring to was one of the earlier sessions when we were introducing the framework of Best and Brightest. And that was a general introduction to each area. And that was my attempt to familiarize the group as a whole with that. It was a one-pager that includes different highlights of each.
And that one bucket, you know, because I asked about trading some money out of the highly effective. We looked at the fact that new teachers, it was up to 4,000 and we moved. So I was trying to grasp, I think we all were in this crazy program, trying to grasp what we could and couldn't move around. But the thing that I thought Charlie was going to read everybody was this, help me, retention? Recognition was completely up to us, even within the context of the law.
Must be rated as highly effective or effective the preceding year and be selected by his or her principal based on performance criteria and policies adopted by the district or charter school board.
Yeah, but that doesn't
That's what I
say,
read.
It says selected by the principal what?
That all that sentence means is that you have graded them highly effective or effective through a board-approved program, which is the team evaluation.
It was kind of my understanding is we had the flexibility of the how, not the who. Kind of when, even when that was brought up, because it was talked about at one point of, there are certain people that are excluded because state statute says that. Now, we didn't get into specifically who that was, but I remember Chad saying there are people because of the state statute. But I thought we had the how was the flexibility. How we did that money, how much we wanted to give to what group, not because the state statute defined the who. And I think that's simply how I just kind of interpreted it. The how, we have all the flexibility in the world, but the who, we do not.
And that's on page 4 of that same document. And it does address, and it says our recognitions awards limited to classroom teachers. It says no. Unlike recruitment and retention awards, which are limited to classroom teachers, this award is statutorily available to instructional personnel as defined by the statute. However, since a district school board or charter school governing board must establish performance criteria and policies for the award, which K through 12 instructional personnel will receive, awards will depend upon district or charter criteria. Then it says how much will be is eligible for the award, and that's where it says the flexibility lies.
I don't know. I thought all instructional meant all instructional. All right.
So this supposedly excludes pre-K. Who else does it exclude?
CRT, reading coach.
Let me read directly from the statute.
No, they're getting it.
And see if this sounds
Who's getting it?
one meeting.
I want to read this directly from statute and see if this sounds eerily similar to what you're reading, okay? To be eligible for a recognition award, instructional personnel must be rated as highly effective or effective and be selected by his or her principal based on performance criteria and policies adopted by the district school board or charter school governing board. Recognition awards must be provided from funds remaining under the allocation. What you're reading was taken as verbatim, correct? straight from the
Not-
statute for the most part, other than the flexibility
Other than
part, correct?
the last line that you read isn't in there, but
Okay.
yeah.
So
Basically.
that's the source of that. And that, this is not unique to us, and I get it. Am I as disappointed as a pre-K teacher or pre-K teacher's assistant? Absolutely not. But am I absolutely disappointed that, again, this is the example, one of the best examples of people being excluded from this.
Okay, so I don't want to make any more assumptions. We're talking about pre-K, TA, and teachers and ESC pre-K. Who else are we excluding?
I think when you get in, I guess you've got brand new first year teachers that do not have an evaluation would be excluded, correct?
Because it says the preceding year.
Yeah.
Literacy coaches are excluded.
Well, literacy coaches, if they're instructional, well, this is where you get in all kinds of exclusions from the $2,500 amount
Right.
when you get into those types of things.
And we
But
discussed
that's not
that.
recognition.
As far as people that are classified as instructional, not defined by this state statute, my thought is that we've included media specialists and
Guidance counselors.
because I had one today,
Specialists.
you know, my stomach dropped because all of a sudden I had an ESC specialist check in.
So is this broader, this is,
And there was a confusion on her end of why she didn't get what she was getting. So, so we double checked to make sure, okay, we get all ESC specialists and ESC specialists are.
I remember reading, it was one of the reasons I asked for it all. I don't know if it was in the packet, but it said instructional, and then it said defined as, because I was personally looking, you were looking around for ESE, et cetera. I was looking out for media specialists and the like and stuff, and I remember reading that part. So where is that listed? I mean, I don't have the packet here because I thought it was all done.
You mean the definition of?
Yeah, of instructional.
Of the number 2, ADE?
That's,
And that was even, I believe that's even posted in the emails
it's right here.
that were sent.
Yeah.
We have copies from last.
That's what I mean. I read that.
Yes.
And then my problem was walking away with the bigger umbrella, all instructional.
Those are folks who are either covered under student personnel services, B, or C, librarians and media specialists, and D, other instructional staff, and I'm gonna tell you, it gets,
Like a school psychologist and those people that we have.
and it's silly because you even look at how they define classroom teachers, and they even say including substitute teachers. But because they're not direct employees of ours under contract, we obviously don't include them in the best and brightest. I understand the disappointment of everyone, no matter what level it is. So at the end of the day, when we talked about this right before Thanksgiving break and came to agreement on it, it wouldn't have changed anything. It's the initial shock of realizing those people are not eligible. I fully understand it. Absolutely. But it would not qualify them either way. It's not a bargainable point of best and brightest.
So just clarification then. Basically, what we then are saying is all instructional, that includes everybody except your pre-K, basically. I mean, you've got your new teachers, all that, you understand that.
Yes.
So basically, it is including everybody that is instructional except pre-K,
And TA,
which the pre-K TAs.
okay.
So it's pre-K people,
I
whether it's a
apologize.
teacher.
pre-K is a TA?
No, if it's a pre-K teacher and or pre-K teacher's assistant.
Okay.
So pre-K does not, they're not included because the statute basically is saying that it's K-12.
Nor does a pre-K TA.
Correct.
Nor does a ESE pre-K.
Pre-K,
Nor does an ESE TA. That's what I was just listening to.
Yes,
Okay.
because
You
it's
were
all
on-
ESC, pre-K, TA.
TA.
Right, I got that. I got that.
So it's, if you're in the pre-K realm, you're not included in the best and brightest. Whatever your
But everybody
Position.
Not all due respect, if you're gonna
correct.
join us, I mean,
She's with my bargaining team right now.
no, that's not how that works, I'm sorry.
I have 10 slots and people can go in and out.
That's real ethical. So you guys are gonna, Kim, I'm asking for
I
your
want-
respect, Kim.
I just wanted to
I don't know what
clarify
he's talking about.
something that we talked about at a joint session. That's all I really wanted
And,
to discuss.
okay, all right. Yeah, and please, you're welcome to join us if so, but, I mean, join us if you want to discuss it.
Well, my feeling for speaking about this right now, Chad, is the people that were here in the joint committee are part of his bargaining team. The people that I had at our joint committee meeting was not part of my bargaining team.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify, and I hear what you're saying, I'm hearing that you're saying it's the law, and I'm hearing this gentleman say that, maybe we didn't read it clear all the way through. But at that joint meeting, I didn't hear that anybody was excluded, okay? And I did ask you about the number of the parapros that you had on here, and what did that represent? And you said all. So, I agree that maybe we weren't all on the same page. We didn't realize that pre-K was not involved in this. And it was kind of, today when everybody thought they were getting a raise or a bonus, and they're calling and saying, Kim, why am I not getting it? If that was up front, because I'm like, no, this must be a mistake. Wait and see what happens. So that was all I really wanted to clarify. That I was under the impression that it was representing all teacher assistants, that there was nobody going to be excluded unless they had a bad evaluation. And that was it.
Or they weren't in the district.
I will tell you that my attempt was to be as thorough as possible and to provide every ounce of information that I could. So by no means did I not want anyone to think that we were doing anything other than following the law. And if I was not thorough enough, I can shoulder that in that.
Maybe we all weren't thorough enough, okay? Because, I talked to one of my TAs today, and she went on and she read it, and she says, Kim, it clearly says that pre-K is not included. Okay, so maybe if, before that bargaining session, we had the information, we would have known other questions to ask, but I'm just saying, at that meeting, I understood it that nobody was being excluded. So that was my whole thing about being in that meeting and what we were told and what we heard.
No, the only one that got it was Corinne, and I asked her, I said, this is a crazy program. I think most of us agreed to that. This was not the place to go through line by line by line. Obviously, it was the place to go through line by line by line, so I owe you an apology, of course, but that's on me.
And today was the first time this came about, so I knew you were meeting tonight, and I knew you would probably be discussing it, so I wanted to be here, because I was part of that discussion.
No, absolutely, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
As part of the marketing, Charlton, I'm just into style now. It's like, the only thing I wish would have happened is when we were talking about the press release and the specifics, and I was going on a little bit about this opportunity to address a morale thing, that someone would have just stopped me right there and said, yeah, but just make sure you don't tell the pre-K people they're not included.
Trust me, if I would have thought about it, I would have said the same thing. But I will also say, you guys released your own information prior to the press release, by the way. So that, which I thought was a major factor and sticking point to you guys, that we released the press release jointly, and that did not occur. So, just saying. I think I I can tell you, I made my best attempt to be as thorough as this is possible, and I obviously fell short in that I did not mention that that group was not included by the statute. So that was not by any means my intent or the intent of the board or the superintendent.
And you said you don't believe you're going to be included next year either.
I think where you have to be mindful next year, like, let's just use the base salary of $47,500 that they're proposing, and that you're gonna see in legislation coming up. They are not including them, they're going by these definitions again, and it's likely, unless someone intervenes because of situations like this, it's likely that they will not be included. The way it currently stands, to be proposed. However, that's something that I know superintendents are being told to advocate for.
I'd
The
like
press
to,
release even says, all instructional employees who are rated effective or highly effective, and all paraprofessionals, including teaching assistants, lab facilitators, sign language interpreters. So somebody even reading the press release would come away with that impression.
How was it stated in your release?
I think I said all instructional employees as well. I used the same verbiage. So how are we going to fix this thing?
how big is it? How many pre-K, et cetera, are there out there?
It said 60.
I know at my school, when I brought 3 papers, and that did not include my pre-K ESE or pre-K TAs. So there would be another 2 or 3.
I would guess you're probably around 50 to 60, and then when you get to TAs, you're probably more than that.
$70,000, $80,000 probably, if you gave everybody
I'd
$1,000.
just have to do the math on
Well, the TAs were
What,
slated for
600?
1,000, they were slated for the 600.
Okay.
So there's a little difference.
I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, I'm really still, but again, my attitude is not in this room, it's with Tallahassee, as it has always been. And that's the beginning of this and the continuation of those people up there. Mama, I'm gonna do it. The people in Tallahassee, do it for me.
And then,
Go ahead, do it, Mama.
infinite wisdom.
In their infinite wisdom, thank you. That's where the problem is, and they have us at each other's throats, and then they have teachers at each other's throats. But
Because, you know, even if you fix it for pre-K, what are you gonna do for those other people that weren't included? I mean, you said how.
Well, that's why I'm asking how big the issue is.
What are the other groups?
We included.
Well, she's talking like
it.
the,
Well, she's saying
like
like,
TAs that are
No, let me,
more custodial.
so you've got the best and brightest, right?
Right.
And then you also have retention.
it's all in the best
Recognition.
right.
It's all with.
Recognition is
But some
different.
people can get,
No,
Can't double dip.
you get one or the other.
No, one or the other, I think it's one pot.
One,
But
but say if they, for an example, I'm in advertising, I'm going for my media specialist, all right?
Yeah.
She's a media specialist, but she teaches, she's only media specialist 3 periods, but she teaches 3 periods. Okay? So she didn't get, and she's highly effective,
Right.
had a 100% pass rate on the AP test. But she's not eligible for the 2,500.
right, because of the way the
Because she-
classes were coded.
Because she's media specialist, not because of how the class was coded, they told me it was her position. And this is, and so her position was media, but she has classroom, she teaches. So she would be eligible for the retention part of it,
Recognition.
the recognition, but not the 2,500 big one for retention.
See, and I would have thought it was the exact opposite. I would have thought.
No, that's exactly what I brought up in our
Superseded.
dual session. That's exactly the issue I brought up. That was a good, that, and I conceded that, at least that,
Because
because
everybody.
that wasn't, there were still probably what, at least 70 people in that should have gotten the 2,500.
We're definitely not encouraging highly effective behavior.
Yeah, that's for sure. We certainly didn't achieve it. Well, the point I was going down, you know, I'm sorry, I can't deal with the media specialist thing. Apologize, but if it was just, all I wanted to be able to say is every instructional person is getting some money for Christmas. Just to say that to a very dispirited group right now. We got more defections going on, more leaving. You know, Diane, just as a side conversation, Diane and I had a conversation. I said, where is the urgency about the teacher shortage? She said, well, the board's full. You know, we don't have that many openings right now. And I said, okay, that's one position. I'm talking about some of the best teachers I've ever worked with are gone this year. And more are going, you know, so that's where my heart is at. And I didn't do the due diligence, and I should have listened more to Corinne. But is it a number that could be taken to the board under the basis of, this is the situation the state has put us in. This is the intent of this joint group. Can we have $80,000? Or am I being, I know, where's the money gonna come from, Vin? I'm sorry, that's the next step, you know, thank you, Bill.
Can you ask that question, or can you propose that, or can that be proposed? I said it can be proposed, and then it's a matter of see if the money is there, because that's here. Because here's where my thought. You know, I've had trouble getting off of the highly effective folks at 19, but highly effective at the ones that were not included. That's rough. Because when you compare the 1,000 to 2,500, that is a big difference. So that's what
the state.
if we can, but that forces us. You know, in my mind, we're constantly trying to say whatever we can, you know, meet laps in the budget, trying to get to a point to where if we recognize savings towards the end of this year, that something can be done with that.
Right.
Do I have a pot of money coming here today? You guys know. No, I do not have a compensation offer today. But having an open mind that if writing some of the gaps in this, if there is a pot of money that's available at some point, I can tell you it's not going to be available by Christmas. But I think those are things we have to think about.
Let me just be honest and not come off flippant, right? We got to the end of the negotiations on the money last year, right? And it's not any place I haven't been before, and I'm sure most people in this room haven't been before. And we were this close. And you went in and asked Scott, and Scott was here, right? And Scott was basically like, we can live with that. And for me, in my little fantasy, that amount was just about the same amount we were talking about now. Because God bless CFOs, you know, they don't look at just the spreadsheet. They got the money flowing in, they got the money flowing out in their brains. And so if somebody said to them, you know, $80,000 is the number, if I took it to the board, would I get laughed out of, you know, the room? It's worth an ask. I don't know, I want to be clear here, I don't know if it's our ask together. I think we might have to caucus, because I don't know my boss's thinking there, but, you know, I certainly would be willing to ask. And, you know, they say no. It's not gonna make me feel better, but I know I've done, more due diligence than obviously I did at that dual meeting.
I think everybody made, to its honest intent, possibly cover all the bases of this program we've been handed. And I don't think that anyone's intent, whether it's from the outside of the table or ours, was to leave anybody out. However, the full intent was to stay within the guidelines of the law, and we did that. And that's what I want to impress upon you guys, especially that are taking responsibility on you guys' side. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't bargain that. So it's not your fault. It could have been messaged, it could have been messaged better. And the reaction probably would be the same from those people. Whether it was, when the press release came out, when we got back this week, or when they found out, when they started trying to verify it online. So the reaction would have been the same, the parameters were the same. It's just, I think there's initial disappointment in this room right now, because we've been building these things all day. There's nobody in this room right now that has not heard about it all day, and from every angle of this. And that, you're right, that's the intent of it. So if you guys want to caucus and talk about it, that's fine. If we want to continue the discussion right here, I can, if the direction you want is for that to be costed out, then I can have that costed out and see what it is and see what the ask is. So, because I mean, pretty much you guys authorizing me to make, or you guys making a proposal and you don't even know what the ask is, that's not fair to you guys.
You could even add all that commentary about how this failed those teachers. And then put that in there to the board and let them make a decision if they want to.
Yeah,
give up
or
that.
another bus up for all the pre-K teachers, right? Yeah. So I'd like to do this offline at some point. Someone has to explain to me, because I'm really puzzled about, from their perspective, God help us, the state, why is a pre-K teacher not instructional? Not now, offline at some point, because I don't get it. It does not compute. Okay.
I think, just for clarification, I think we don't handle pre-K here in Lake County, how a lot of other districts handle pre-K. First of all, your only fully funded pre-K student is a pre-K ESE student, so that's where they're going to push first, is to say, who on earth would take on the challenge of teaching a room full of pre-K ESE kids? Nobody, and now you're not going to include them, And then, but if you look at it, there's a lot of pre-K classrooms across the state that do not have they're certified in some regard, but they're not full-time instructional employees.
I just want to add
So that's handled differently.
add to that from a dimension. Mama or Charlotte, what's the name of the types of the category of the students that Heidi Cook teaches? What's the polite name?
IND.
Louder?
IND. She's teaching an access class?
Yes.
Okay, because there was a explosion today from one of them, and a lot of us had to stand around her because we were concerned it could have gotten very violent. And she was already had a can thrown at her last year. And it took a good 15 minutes, and she talked this individual down. And you're right, Chad. I mean, I wish I could film it and show everybody, because, Heidi and I have our differences at times, silly stuff, but the reality is, wow, that's what you do? I'm an amateur.
Our self-contained classroom.
I'm a glorified storyteller in history, okay? Anyway, I'm sorry. Is it worth it? It's not worth it? Okay.
But she's not excluded.
Well, it was,
But
I'm trying to.
we have pre-K ESE or same thing.
Yeah.
Caucus.
Mama, honest to God, I thought it was a dangerous situation, and after.
Okay. Let's run some numbers and see what we're looking at dollar-wise. If you could, please.
And they would have to be pre-K teachers that were here last year.
Yes. Pre-K
Pre-K
teachers
and
were,
TAs, the
and
whole
their
unit,
TAs who were here last year.
not just the pre-K, but the pre-K and TA, just like everybody
I mean,
else.
right now, we're just throwing
Pre-K
numbers. Let's look
TA,
at real numbers.
Pre-K ESC TA, and pre-K teachers, pre-K ESC teachers.
So we're
All
doing,
pre-K.
All pre-K classified
I want to
people.
know how much it would cost.
okay.
So you're saying all pre-K, but at first y'all said just ones that were here last year.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
Well, because they would have, they would
All right.
still have to qualify, they would have to, like, if they didn't teach here last year, then they would qualify, it would be only those that would qualify for this year that would be under this,
Effective or
including
highly
effective or highly effective. It would be those that would qualify for this in the pre-K
Okay, so,
realm.
so there might be some of those verification people and that also that were pre-K teachers in another district
That could fall into
or
one of the
an
two
instructional
buckets.
person in another district that might have to verify.
That might have to
Yeah,
verify
First year for
that.
us.
Right.
Okay.
And that would be up to them to do the verification.
Although really, if it's instructional, it's the same amount of money, so who cares, why would you verify?
Well, all you're doing is looking at, making sure they didn't have a needs improvement at their other schools.
That's my whole point. We didn't talk about that, so realistically, why would I supply anything, because it's $1,000, so you could technically have someone
Now they got to prove that their evaluation from last year.
in that category, but in recruitment, I'm gonna get the same
Oh,
1,000.
recruitment, yeah.
So who cares if I supply it or not, I'm still getting $1,000.
But the recruitment is within,
The new.
well, but it's only those specific areas. It's the science, math, and all those. That's where they get you there, because you like for all the people following the recruitment. You know, it's funny, it's called recruitment when it's for people that are already here.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
Critical shortage, basically, renamed.
Essentially.
I tell you, and again, I don't know, I hope I'm not overstepping, but as far as presenting to the board, I'm certainly willing to speak. I mean, I think Lake County, if they do this, is saying to the state, these people are important, these are educators, and we recognize that even if you don't. And that's how I would play it to the press anyway. But, you know, again, it's money.
But I do know that when we were at FEA, at convention, and MEA, we passed those amendments for all teachers, pre-K teachers, and all of that.
Well, those are just resolutions, they have no bearing on anything.
Which is why
I mean, we can negotiate that, they may, but we didn't, so, move on.
The additional supplement MOU, there's clarification that needs to be done. I brought back some information on that, just to refresh folks that might not have been here or remind the ones who were. In the past, with critical shortage, we included what was formerly known as your I&D classrooms and your EBD classrooms, which the new names of those are access classrooms and behavior support classrooms. So we put those into the MOU and adapted that. But then it came about that there's the possibility of another self-contained classroom called VE Academic Support. So that's what we researched. There are VE Academic Support classrooms, and the best way I can describe them is it's still kind of a quasi-hybrid type situation, because it's not fully self-contained. It's because when you're usually talking about self-contained, you know, it's how the student is assigned. I think these kids are, the teacher's staying stationary, but the kids are going out. Instead of the kids already being out and the teacher going to them, traditional PE. So it's almost like, it's almost like a reverse PE teacher. So they're in the system as the academic support. Just so for some knowledge on it, you're looking at about 15-to-1 student ratio there. And I think that ratio is a little higher because those students do not have as high needs, and their IEPs are probably not as demanding. And their least restrictive environment for those kids is to go out and to push in and be in an inclusive environment. But they still need that window of support where they're coming back to that solid room, depending on whether it's for a different subject or maybe there's some social emotional need there. Maybe it's just a large off in the morning. I think if you go through the 23.5 allocations that exist for that, it's probably being done in a wide variety of ways. So there's 23.5 allocations for that at 21 different schools, and it's just based on the needs of the school.
Are they all mostly elementary, middle school, or is it spread out?
It's all over, and that's what's kind of wild. There's middle school, high school, and elementary in there. Obviously, just based on the amount of schools we have, but it's pretty proportionate to the amount of schools that we have. So, you know, and the other question, whenever I was asking ESC about this at the district level, and you know, I was like, all right, well, any ESC job is a difficult job, you know, but when it comes down to what is the intent of this memo of understanding is for critical shortage. So my question to them is, are we having difficulties hiring for this position? And the answer for that was no. And I would say that any ESC position is not easy to hire. However, if you're rewarding the ones who are in places where it is hard to get people into, it helps to aim those dollars at those truly self-contained classrooms that are full of IND kids and EBD kids. Because we could have the inverse effect by, you know, chances are the BE academic support positions, when they come open, I bet you're going to have people that are applying, and they're not going to be applying from the outside. They're going to be applying from IND classrooms and EBD classrooms, which is emptying out creating a critical shortage area. So I think, in my opinion, keeping that, even though it's not a big carrot, but keeping that $750 carrot there for those access and behavior support classrooms strategically and within the intent of what this critical shortage bonus is for would be wise. So I wanted to give you guys that information. And
So you are recommending that the ESE academic receive critical shortage or not?
I'm recommending that they do not. And the reason being because I think it'll create vacancies, or it would lend to creating more vacancies in a critical shortage classroom.
I don't know that I fully agree with that, because I look at my ESE academic type classroom at my school or what I know of at other schools, and those kids can still be prone to a lot of difficulties or challenges. We have one right now that would meet that definition and be in that type of a classroom, and he went completely off the chain. So I don't know,
To add to that, we're talking access classes are students that have an IQ of 55 or lower. So the academic support classes are 55 to 70.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, so, but you know, if my boss says that's a piece of cake,
I don't think anybody has ever stated that's a piece of cake, but if you're stating it, I don't know if you're thinking that. But what I can
So the
tell you, you can
access
talk to
teachers
your
are not-
secondary folks, I guarantee they know that difficult window of IQ that's in there, but because they're trying to get them over the hump without a special diploma anymore. So I don't think anybody, and that's why I don't want to drag it into who deserves and who doesn't. What I'm trying to describe, what I'm telling you my viewpoint is based upon is this is a critical shortage bonus. And the critical shortage has been in IND and EBD. We have not witnessed a critical shortage in the VE academic support classroom.
That's
And-
because this is the first year we've had that.
I agree. So that's also lends to, I think, my opinion, we watch it for a year and see if this is something that truly deems itself to be a critical shortage position.
But I know my first 3 years was teaching high school, ESE, VE, math, and the behaviors in that class were as bad as behaviors anywhere.
And to clarify again, IND, EBD, and ASD? Does ASD fall in that as well?
Yes.
Those are your access and
And or
behavior.
it does? I'm just kidding.
I think, but here's it, you can have mainstream kids that are ASD. You can have mainstream kids that are full inclusion out and B's just checking them. So you
Right.
can't,
But that-
when you go.
But they wouldn't be in the
flicking
Yeah, that wouldn't
student
be-
label.
I think it's kind of, there's no more ASD classes, or
Correct.
they've changed the name. So what you're kind of saying, you're asking, it's access point, EBD. Those kids, ASD may fall into access, or they may fall into the,
That's,
yeah, so there's no more ASD class to say, yeah.
Or they may fall into the academic support.
They could, or the mainstream, they could be on a whole spectrum. There's not just an ASD group anymore.
Right.
well, we have 3 ASD classrooms at high school. I understand that some are access, I
Right.
understand some are gen ed, some push out into the other classrooms, but I guess that's what I'm clarifying. So if I'm an ASD teacher and I have a mixture of both, I would qualify for critical.
You would, it depends on what you would code it in one of those, because it's not coded ASD anymore. So if it was
you
an
were
access
coded
or.
access
yeah.
academic, according to definition over here, no, you wouldn't get a critical shortage.
And self-contained is an inspiration as well. It's a self-contained.
Well, we
Right, not a resource.
Roger.
Yeah, no, we don't have resources, we did away with that years ago, but I'm saying, like, I know for a fact, there's one, and I'm gonna keep calling it ASD, because I don't know what else to call it. But,
Yeah.
she has some access, some regular, some push out, and then they come back in, but you have a mixture of both, so I'm
It would just
So,
depend
no,
on.
and I'm open to perspective, so that's what, basically you had 123 individuals that were paid out last year based on the $750. And if we were to expand that to include these individuals, you're looking at, the additional 23.5 brings you about to 150 people total that would receive a critical shortage. If we expended around $100,000 for that group last year. So if we're using the same pot of money and scaled back to include those people, that 750 number would scale down to 650 to cover those additional, essentially 23.5 people. And that's where the numbers stand.
Tell me that, John, kind of one more time. What we're calling those people.
VE academic support.
I think any self-contained.
23.5.
Well, kind of listen to what you said, just kind of, my background's ESE too, so that's kind of why I'm talking a little more around this subject. But I think they're used in such a variety of ways that somebody who could be doing academic support could be a resource room, and that's not what it's coded. Or it could be something of that. So you're looking at, then you're kind of going to say, well, that person does it here, then why didn't I get it too? So I think you kind of got to be consistent in that, and where we know the self-contained units are the self-contained units, and they're consistent across the board.
I don't think that's going to happen. The way we're implementing it. I didn't talk to Melissa. I talked to Cindy Patterson. I asked her, okay, and she's our coordinator. Do we have self-contained academic classrooms? She said, yes, we have about, 3 or 4 of them. So,
But I guess then my question is though, but we have 23 people coded.
right.
So really, we're trying to do those 3 or 4 when it's really 23. You're looking at almost a bunch of titles, but we had to use one job title.
So then clarifying, you're saying right now that the one group would not receive, so give or take 20, 25 people, whatever it is, they would not receive the money at all. Unless it was to where we would bring down the money to 650 so that they would all receive it.
That's correct.
Bring it down to 700.
Because it,
750 to 650, sorry.
So if you have a mixed class, like at Lost Lake, and half of her students are Access, then she gets half of that money?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's the way it's been done in the past.
Oh. See, I don't
I would
understand.
prefer not, but
Is that not
Something
there?
that has to be decided.
I don't think that's correct.
We have not done
okay.
that. For self-contained.
For self-contained, IND, which is now Access Classroom, and EBD, which is now Behavior Support Classroom, which have been included in this MOU, if that's where they're at, they're self-contained and they got the full amount of
The intent of doing those classes was to make it so that a teacher did not have gen ed standards and access.
Right.
So there should not be mixed classes. We haven't, so we're looking at a new animal this year.
That's,
We don't have.
guys, and
If mine are access,
Not
they're
mixed.
access,
Yeah.
like cook
Right.
and.
Because you're large enough to
Yeah,
to fill that class.
yes, yes, ma'am.
Right, it's not.
and just, because this is where my mind goes right back to how we were identifying people, because remember the first time I talked about this, I'm like, yes, this is ESE people, and they're like, you're like, no, and not VE, not, I remember those conversations, but what I'm saying is, I just want to stay true to the intent of the MOU being a critical shortage bonus. I want to get all kinds of people money and make people not feel excluded, but we've identified those 2 areas as truly critical shortage areas, and Kiana can probably provide you with a long list of issues you had filling those positions. So, and I know one of them in particular that, it was described to me when they had an opening for one of those is, this is not, in my school, in my situation, this is not as demanding of a classroom atmosphere as what my EBD teacher or my behavior support classroom is. By no means are we discrediting or saying that the work is not difficult, but I think we also have to be reasonable in saying that is it less difficult, likely, than being in a behavior support self-contained classroom? We have to be honest with ourselves, likely in most circumstances, but in some it might not. So I just want to stay true to this being a critical shortage. You guys obviously you're going to have your philosophies and you can propose whatever you like.
I personally feel that you discussed that with Melissa and that was her decision.
What now?
You discussed it with Melissa and that was her decision.
What was her decision?
That they not be counted as critical shortage.
That's absolutely false. I didn't, what I discussed
I'm
is.
sorry, because my notes say that
You're gonna have to start taking better notes. What
I'll-
what I'm telling you is that I spoke with ESE about the different types of units and places. And I told her the intent of my asking that is because we're trying to figure out critical shortage. She didn't have the benefit to weigh in on whether or not they are deemed $750 part of a critical shortage bonus. My question to her was, have you had trouble filling those positions? And she said no. The same thing that if I went to Kiana in my department, who's an instructional recruitment partner, would tell me also and have data to back it up. And granted, those people might generate data as we move forward, and especially if it expands beyond 21 schools and 23 allocations, we might find that those are difficult to fill places also. Well, the intent of it is to help incentivize people to stay in the difficult to fill positions. So if we're being logical and somewhat making an assumption though about the difficulty of manning the behavior support classroom versus the BE academic support classroom, I think we have to be honest and say that it's probably a more difficult task. And if I'm in one of those behavior support classrooms and a BE academic support classroom comes open, it's likely that one of those people are going to apply for that and create an opening in a critical shortage area. And can we agree on that, or is that not?
We could, but I think my point was just, I don't know that every classroom doesn't have maybe a little of both sitting in it, and that was where I was concerned.
But they should, is that correct?
I don't know that it's that perfect that they're not.
I don't think it is that
So
perfect.
I don't know enough about it.
A bigger
and
school has plenty of room and they can.
But that's why I
Smaller
just bring
schools are
that
gonna
up.
have
Correct, and this is the first year that they've done it, so. Mr. Bordenkircher is a prime example of
So
not having everything that they need.
I think it's hard to have this conversation and know for sure how that's going to fall out without a couple of years of experience trying this new model. I think it's going to be hard to have that conversation. I think, in my estimation, we stick with what we have so that we know we can man those positions and those people will stay. Because I sort of feel like Chad does. If I have this option to work with these very, very serious behavior students versus these kids who have academic issues and some behavior, and I'm going to get the same money, that's going to be my choice. And that's my concern. So what you do is you empty one bucket by filling another bucket in that concern.
Well, and if you think about some of the ISD self-contained classrooms, would you say those are classrooms where there's more duties of possibly lifting, changing diapers, and does that happen in those classrooms? Is that the self-contained, do those happen a lot?
That's our kindergarten.
I mean, I do have in my access, I have two in.
So what I'm
It takes
saying is,
them-
there's people that don't like those duties because they don't feel like
Because it
that's
takes about.
the toiletry and some of the medical responsibilities that come along that are pretty significant. And
It takes two pre-K years. It takes about an hour.
you're right.
So just make sure it's.
No, you're right.
Sorry. Just bringing that out. Sorry.
So again, besides the ESE people, will you read whoever else is included in this? It's high
Yes.
school, just so we're clear.
ESE access classrooms and behavior support classrooms, ESE visually impaired, ESE deaf or hard of hearing, speech language, science, chemistry, physics, calculus, and CTE areas of engineering, network, cybersecurity, registered nurse, and TV production.
So I heard you say science, and then I also heard chemistry is separate.
Yes.
So are we talking any science?
I think the science word was the heading, and then other science were the classes, am I correct?
And science is included in this. And I'll have to go back and,
Science, chemistry, and physics.
Yeah.
Science, chemistry, and physics, I mean, science.
Right, that's why I want to be clear on this though, because I heard science and then chemistry and then physics.
Those are prorated based on what you teach. See, if you only teach one class of physics, then you only get 1/7 of
That's what I'm wondering. So I make it clear.
Right, and Michelle, that's correct, that if you only teach one class, then you get 1/7 of it.
I believe that's correct, it's prorated. Yes. Well, I don't know if it's 1/7. It's prorated.
But prorated by teaching assignment, not by students.
Right.
Last question.
Right.
Oh, 1/6.
One is
1/6.
so I just need to know, I need direction on.
Yes.
Do you think science is heading
The
to
science was heading
chemistry
in
and
other
physics?
science categories.
I think so, too.
It was chemistry and physics and
Where's the
physics.
comma? Is that from the state or?
This has been from MOUs of years past, is where,
So in other words, it's not like a general science, it needs to be chemistry, physics.
Right.
Yes.
The science areas were physics and physics.
Can I make a suggestion that we not make an assumption on that?
I know, that's,
Have
we need to clarify
I'll
that.
check on
That's why I'm asking, because,
And
right.
science was the category.
Because if science is a category, every elementary teacher would qualify.
Right.
Well, I can tell you that's probably not.
Right, I know, but
It was physics. I think it was a heading science, just like you had CTE and you listed all the
But you don't need
CTEs.
science,
I think
you
it
need
was
chemistry,
science and the two classes were chemistry and physics.
And I will have to check and make sure. Okay.
What math was
Maybe
it,
a little
calculus
cleanup.
and,
Math would be the same way, then you really don't have to have math. but
well,
then it
you
would
didn't
be
say math, though,
calculus.
so it's just calculus and.
calculus.
Calculus and that's it.
Chemistry, physics, calculus.
Then it would be science, it would be physics, chemistry.
Well, let's check what the state recommends.
That's language.
What does it have now?
Or calculus.
Yeah.
So did we decide we're going to keep the VE academic support there, or are we going to take it away? What was the recommendation, and what have we decided? I'm still confused.
We are not keeping it.
Huh?
We are not keeping it.
Not keeping
And
it.
here's with the way curriculum short is, they released a list from the state, and then when it comes to this, we can expand the areas of curriculum shortage. That's how you wind up like teaching production on
So if we put ESE pre-K, then they would be at least 150.
Or are they hard to fill? I mean, I truly don't know. Is
Well, when you got feeding tubes.
I wouldn't say it's easy.
I wouldn't think it would be very easy, but then I don't.
It's not easy.
We
I
have no idea.
A biter that takes chunks.
Let me,
No, it's not.
mean, like, would Kiana have numbers for each of those? Like,
ESE pre-K.
well, no, I'm talking the other ones, like the sciences and the
Oh,
maths.
I mean, yeah, she can have data on a lot of it. She can probably tell you, Rob, and if you asked her today, she would probably say every teacher is difficult to fill. Regardless of how many postings we have, which are not many at the moment, but still, you know, to me, it's retention. Because they, 19, 20 years, listen, here's the recommended critical shortage areas. Science, general, English, math, ESOL, science physical, reading, technical education, and ESE as a whole. So basically, everybody is who they've included on their list. So I think that's why they do leave it to us to, you know.
But historically, we've used the state list and added
Yeah.
other pieces to it.
So
And I noticed that was science and then the other, I mean, it wasn't science as a general category.
High school teachers, what's the hardest science to go at your school?
Physics, chemistry.
And then the math?
It's even hard to get out.
Calculus, but it's hard to
Well, I know algebra, but calculus.
Calculus.
What's that? Oh goodness, this is a tough one. I don't really know what's happening a lot. It's a double, no, it's a double hard. But for the record, many times, and I have to go through the whole thing. Yeah.
I had to double click it. Son of a turkey nose.
Treasure out.
How to create the apple tree.
all the way back to, the list has not changed a whole heck of a lot, but it's very vague. I'm only about to 17, 18, or like 18, 19, went to this year. They've changed slight things. It's pretty much stayed the same.
I'm sorry, are we questioning how we got to that list? Because we did do it based on the state, but remember, it was phase 2 of that ill-fated lift, okay? So consequently, putting words in Chad's mouth, but I think Chad said the general there, and then we had the right to do what we needed, and that's why they kept the general. And we had those people, I'll remind you how bad lift was from the very beginning, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's how we wound up with that list. And we may have just carried it through
I was gonna say, I think the lift dictates a lot of that, right?
MOU.
MOU, SE. Inspired.
MOU as ESC.
In your
Level of understanding, MOU. So I think we just
So
carried it.
how do we bargain, like, for an example, my FFA person, that's just a hard position to fill. It's hard to find.
So we could have that
certified in
if
that.
we wanted.
Well, CTE was there.
There was specific CTE.
Ag teacher, yeah.
Because it was TV production, it was engineering, cybersecurity.
But as I
And
recall, a
nurses.
long time ago, we used to go to Julie Sumlin and them and talk to them about who was hard to hire in the CT, and then they would come and put
Yeah.
in for who we
So we
found
could
hard to
add.
hire.
We've had that experience,
Your
though.
agricultural
Yeah.
on the
I mean,
list.
Yeah, 'cause you can't
Ag is
ag-
hard to find.
Just like Chinese.
Oh my gosh. Whew.
Right, and Mandarin.
But then it leaves out the construction people in Leesburg.
All right, we're down to everybody getting $1 a piece.
That means you have to give us $3.
There you go. I'm trying to dig out the statute, see if I have it right on hand. It's within the compensation statute, where we're required to give a Title I bonus and a critical shortage area bonus and a DA supplement. So I wanted to see if they spoke directly to how the list is formulated in that. So that's what I was thinking to look up here.
But for the sake of time, am I correct in the sense that we still are focused right now on the current MOU ESE? And what we're looking at and discussing kind of loosely here to understand some of that is something that we can open next bargaining next year, and we should get, or, you know, talk about opening and say, it's time we take a look at that list and, you know, negotiate, because ag should be on it, whatever. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That-
I say, let's do it now.
Take a look at how many
Can we? I don't think we have
field
the
teachers you
information.
have.
Let's get the
We have to
information.
say
I mean, I'll talk with Kiana and I'll get some true numbers on the critical shortage and we'll, I think there's some on here that, you know, we know will be here and then there's some that might not be here. And then ones that,
Would it be worth also surveying the principals for their take? I think it would.
yes, definitely. I mean, maybe we come together next week, so I can lay it out to them. And Kiana pretty much, because she's managing all of their purpose and needs, she usually has that on all of our hiring like that. So. Okay, so we'll look at that. We need to set a date. Part of that is, we didn't get there today, but Article 10, in discussing with academic cabinet, I won't get fully into all the discussions there. I say they were just as concerned about things as you guys are. And so what I've asked them to do is, Dr. Weisskopf would like to come to our next bargaining session and talk about the language within Article 10 that there's shared concern over. You know, you guys have presented some language. I discussed that with them, we showed that with them, and there's parts of it they like, parts of it they don't like, just like we've said sitting at this table.
And that with the board to get their opinion?
Well, I have not taken that language to the board as of yet, no. I mean, we're still in the process. But what I would like is for them to be able to come in, remove the curtain, you know, that is around this learning instrument or the collection tool, or what do we call it, the learning log tool. And so you guys know what it looks like, what information is collected, where it's going, what the reports look like, and provide you guys with that.
So we varied from what the original intent was, correct?
Well, and that's what they're worried, is they don't want it misconstrued, because they love that we've been working towards language and moving away from it being anything that could be considered evaluative. And what they want to clarify with you guys, because they're not getting a whole lot of pushback, but you know the people that are mad about it aren't going to tell them, they're going to tell you guys. But then again, you guys aren't hearing from all the people that think it's valuable towards what's going on in the school. So I feel like them coming and speaking with the group would be very valuable. And at least it's more informed in this room. So are you guys open to them coming and presenting at our next session?
For a period of time now.
What does that mean? Do I need to set a time limit then, or?
We might need to. I mean, this is dragging on. We're going on 10 months here.
Okay, well.
But yeah, let's bring them in, let's hear from them, and then we can talk with them.
I'm definitely interested though in ways we can speed it up. I mean, that it's two parties that are working in this. It's not
I know.
not the district,
You
dragging
can give
along.
us a 3.5% raise and we'll be out of here.
Exactly, and that's why we're here for a long period of time. So you made my point for me. So.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
And so that, it is what it is, but I feel like if we've got academic initiatives going into the school and you guys are offering contract language on it, then yes, we need to have these discussions. Absolutely, without doubt, they're necessary. So. Dates.
the
Provide you a couple
We
of
can
things.
add any,
Yeah.
these are the areas of the
I think
state.
she was fairly open for the most part, but I was gonna do it, as we're discussing today, I told her to be on standby from 5 to 5:30, so I could shoot days faster.
So you want sometime before the holiday, or you want wait until after the holiday?
I mean, I think if we could do it before, I mean, I know our schools are gonna have a lot of demands prior to there, but
Do all the high schools have early release the last week?
No, all of them.
Those 3 days, 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Doesn't that make sense, since we're getting out at 1:30?
that's when, I think that's when most of your events are gonna be.
Oh, events?
They hold them, I'm just saying at the schools.
Probably elementary,
Yeah.
especially.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot.
Because I'm sorry, I'm thinking events, performing arts, and ours are the week
Yeah.
before.
We have nothing.
What's our date when we get back?
Like 6.
Wait, 6th is the professional development day?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, which, I'm
What
sorry.
about January 8th? Any objections on January 8th?
Yeah.
Yes, it's an NTO.
Yeah, what happened to December, like what was
Yeah,
wrong
what
with
happened
December,
to
or
17th?
16th, even, like the 16th?
Well,
17th.
that week I know we're busy, but the,
Yeah.
That's-
We are too with our Christmas stuff.
That's what I'm saying, that's all I heard out of my.
Oh, got it, sorry, I just heard
15th.
elementary.
January.
Okay, sorry.
Any of us were. January 8th? Don't know.
Eight,
No, we would teach our kids.
Oh,
January 9th,
7.
7th?
January or February you went now?
January.
January. What about the 15th?
15.
January.
December?
Is there
No,
anywhere in
January
that 6th through the 10th week?
Don't you want me to teach orientations?
7.
7.
6th after professional
Do
development.
we have anything on the 7th? I did not show you.
No. And we don't maybe the 6th with PD day, my daughter starts earlier, it's possible on Monday.
The 6th or 7th was possible.
we leave
Yeah,
early
that's
PD.
true, we could leave
Oh,
early on that
That's
one.
my arm. Actually, we're doing mental health. That requires
And I
5
have a feeling
hours.
what most of them are doing.
Well,
something like
And that brings up, I'm glad you brought that up. Because is that what you're teaching, the mental health, or you're taking?
That's what I'm
So there's
taking, my teacher part is the 6th.
Right.
Okay.
So we have 70 spots with one of the few trainers, and we signed up for that.
Okay, and then you're also teaching,
Right.
so can the time that teachers are both taking the class and teaching the class be reimbursed through the millage that we have for safety and security, since those are required?
But that would be double dipping, wouldn't it?
No,
I would say that's a question you need to send to Scott. You'll see.
I already did, and I haven't gotten an answer.
All right, I'll ask.
Other than, gee, what a great idea, but we don't have the money.
Well, the mental health that we just found out is modules, and it's like a speak override, so it's really not a whole lot that they
Is
have.
that and then I'm talking about the time teaching the students that 5 hours.
It is, when I have to really teach anything, it's like an override. We had the viewing this morning, we have the viewing, we just hit the button, they can't move forward.
Yeah, start and stop.
Yeah, just stop,
But
we
still
have a
taking
conversation.
teachers.
But it's during the school day.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, the teacher's time for that could be reimbursed through the millage, which would give money in Fund 100 for possible teacher raises.
I don't get, it's during the regular school day, so I don't know.
There'll be double shipping.
No, you're not getting paid twice.
Okay.
Well,
Teacher's getting paid,
Right.
but the millage is reimbursing Fund 100 for the time that the teacher is teaching.
Okay.
So that gives money in Fund 100 available for
Like they're doing
teacher
now.
raises and other
Custodians.
things.
That's not the cafeteria is paying X amount.
I'll ask Scott
As
what
representative
what
of
you guys think.
elementary, do you have events on Wednesday, December 18th?
So what day did we
I
decide?
January,
That's our
January 7th.
That's
Yeah.
your,
holiday party.
got it, we're doing ours earlier.
January 7th.
And I'm sure there are others too.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
4 o'clock,
Because it's a Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
He's not prepared.
4 a.m.? Cool.
Is that LCEA or
We can
here?
do that.
Yeah, it's LCEA's turn.
We can do that.
But you're gonna have other people from,
Jake,
it might be better.
That's what, it would probably be better here, especially if they're gonna have technology that they're gonna need to incorporate.
all right. Then we'll just have to go to our place next Tuesday.
That's fine.
4 o'clock.
Yes.
You said what?
So yeah, check this out on, because that would fall under that whole safety and security, and that would add about $1 million to Fund 100 out of, to be able to use for other things.
Add some of those small pockets and we have a little bit more.
Or the time teachers have to take their 5 hours. Pay for them.
3 or 4. 2.5 hours for sure,